Okay, so let's just jump right in. How to reset your entire life in just one day. Yeah, I know. It sounds a little crazy, maybe even impossible, right? But stick with me here. Because what if the real reason we all fail at changing our lives has nothing to do with willpower and everything to do with a totally flawed strategy?
I mean, just think about New Year's resolutions for a second. We've all been there. Studies show that a mind-blowing 80 to 90% of them, they just fail, usually within a few weeks. You know the scene. The gym is absolutely packed in January, and then by February, ghost town. And look, this isn't a coincidence. It's not because you're lazy or I'm lazy. It's because the system we're using is fundamentally broken.
So, that's the big question we're going to dig into today. Why are we seemingly hardwired to fail at this stuff? If you've ever looked in the mirror and promised yourself, okay, this year is going to be different, only to find yourself sliding right back into those same old habits, listen up. You're not broken. It just means you're caught in a pattern you can't quite see yet. And here it is. This is the absolute core of the problem. The reason we get stuck is that we are trying to change the wrong thing. We pour all our energy into changing our actions, our behaviors, when we should be focusing on changing our identity. Yeah, this slide lays it out perfectly. Look at the left side. Changing your actions. That's the brute force method, right? It's all about willpower and constant discipline, and let's be real, that's exhausting. It never lasts. But then you look at the right side, changing your identity. That's a whole different ballgame. It's deep, it's internal. It's about becoming the kind of person who just does the right things, naturally, almost without thinking.
This quote just nails it. Think about a professional athlete, like a bodybuilder. Do you think they have to use willpower every single day to eat healthy and go to the gym? No way. For them, eating junk food would feel weird. That would take willpower. You see, their lifestyle, their identity is already in place. The muscles, the success, that's just a side effect.
And trying to force new habits without first changing who you see yourself as, well, it's exactly like this. You're trying to build this massive, beautiful skyscraper on a foundation that's completely rotten. It doesn't matter how great the building is. It is absolutely destined to collapse. Okay, so if we're going to fix that foundation, we have to go deeper. We need to understand what's really going on under the hood, inside our own minds. It's time to pull back the curtain on the hidden drivers that are secretly running the show. The psychologist Alfred Adler had this incredible insight. He basically said, trust only movement. In other words, you can talk all you want. You can say you want to be a millionaire or get in shape, but your actions, what you actually do day in and day out, that's what reveals your real, true goals. That's the only story that matters. So let's get really practical here. Think about procrastination. We always call it laziness, right? But what if it's not? What if it's actually an unconscious goal to avoid being judged on your work? Or how about staying in a job you hate? It's not a lack of courage. It's you successfully achieving your unconscious goal of safety and predictability. This is so important. Every single one of our behaviors, even the ones that feel like self-sabotage, is actually aimed at achieving a goal. And this right here, this is the cycle that traps us. It starts with a goal, maybe one you don't even know you have. You act on it, you get some kind of feedback, and pretty soon that behavior becomes automatic. It's just conditioned. Then the really tricky part happens. It becomes a part of who you are. And once something is part of your identity, your brain will defend it like its life depends on it, even if that identity is the very thing destroying your future. Okay, that sounds pretty bleak, I know. So, how in the world do you break a cycle that powerful? Well, this is where we get to the good stuff, the really actionable part. We're talking about a specific one-day protocol, a plan designed to shatter that old identity and give you a level of clarity you haven't felt in years. It's all broken down into 3 simple phases for the day. Phase 1, the morning, is what we'll call psychological excavation. You're going to dig deep. Phase 2, the afternoon, is about consciously interrupting your autopilot. And phase 3, the evening, is where you take everything you've learned and synthesize it into a powerful new plan. So, the morning phase kicks off with something called an anti-vision. Now, this is the exact opposite of a vision board or positive affirmations. The goal here is to get brutally, painfully honest about the life you don't want. It's about generating enough disgust and negative energy with your current path that change becomes a necessity, not a choice. And it starts with questions like this one. What is that dull, nagging dissatisfaction that you've just learned to live with? We're not talking about major life tragedies here. We're talking about that low-grade hum of meh that's become your background noise. The thing you always complain about to your friends but never actually do anything about. And then, whoa, it escalates. The questions force you to project yourself 10 years into the future if nothing changes. What doors have slammed shut for good? Who in your life has just given up on you? Who's disappointed? This is designed to make you feel the real, heavy cost of staying exactly where you are. And finally, it delivers the gut punch. It asks you for the most embarrassing reason you haven't changed. Not the polite excuse you tell everyone else, but the raw, honest one. The one that makes you feel weak or scared or small. Because that reason, that's the key. That's the identity you're unconsciously protecting. Okay, so after a day of that kind of intense self-reflection, you can't just go back to normal. You need a new operating system. And that's the final piece of the puzzle. Taking all of that powerful insight and turning your life into a game. A game you are genuinely excited to play and to win. And this is it. This is your new dashboard. Your vision for who you want to become, that's the win condition of the game. That painful anti-vision you just created, that's what's at stake. That's what happens if you lose. Your big one-year goal is now the main mission. Those one-month projects, think of them as the epic boss fights. And your daily habits, those are the daily quests that level you up and get you closer to winning. So why does this work so well? Because this simple framework creates what's essentially a force field for your mind. It automatically filters out distractions. It makes your priorities crystal clear. It literally turns focus and obsession into your default setting, making that new identity feel completely natural. Suddenly, playing the game of your new life is the only thing you want to do. So after all of this, it really just boils down to one final powerful question. I want you to forget the big, scary 5-year plan for just a second. And just ask yourself this. What is the absolute smallest version of the person you want to become that you could start being tomorrow? Because at the end of the day, a real-life reset doesn't start on January 1st. It starts with your very next choice.